Hey everyone, welcome back. So, have you ever wondered why it is that mindfulness is so emphasized whenever you're looking into mental health or looking into therapy and trying to understand how to heal yourself? In this video, I want to explain to you exactly why mindfulness is so useful and help you understand why it is that you're going to start to practice mindfulness if you don't already have a mindfulness practice. Join me. Okay, so let's talk mindfulness a little bit here. So, there is an idea that I keep repeating with all my clients recently, that I keep emphasizing with all my clients over and over and over, that I want to share with you because I think if you're not aware of this, if you don't know what I'm about to say, it can really impede and slow your progress down when it comes to this self directed therapy path or this path of using psychedelics or this path of personal growth, however you want to think of it. So here's the concept, and I'll explain how this is connected to mindfulness because I do think this is fundamentally a form of mindfulness. So the concept is seeing the lens that you are thinking through. Okay. This is a really important piece that a lot of people kind of misunderstand about mindfulness. Okay. So if we practice mindfulness, if we get really, really good at mindfulness, we will start to get a really clear distinction between the different parts of our psyche, different parts of our identity. If you want to think of it in IFS terms, your parts, and kind of our calm, still, centered, essential self, our kind of core awareness, which is clear and vibrant and wide open. Okay. Now, mindfulness shows you this. It starts to show you that there is a you sitting there in awareness while the brain automatically chatters on its own. That's kind of the gift of mindfulness. Now, as we start to practice mindfulness, we start to really wrap our head around the idea that when we are thinking from different parts, and these parts are like a lens that kind of distort or filter or color the way we see the world and what our priorities are or what our beliefs are or what our values are or what our worldview is in that given moment. So if you are thinking through, for example, an anxious part, you're going to have a quality to your perception of the world that is going to be totally different than if you're thinking through, say, an optimistic part of yourself. So the core thing I want you to really wrap your head around is A, recognizing that you have parts and that these parts distort and shape, let's say, for lack of a better phrase here, the kind of thoughts that come out of you. So if you're just identifying with the thoughts that are coming out of you and you're not looking at where those are coming from, you may not catch the way these are being distorted by a certain part of your personality. Now, to be clear, parts are natural and normal, and we switch parts really quickly, right? It's really organic and subtle the way we can switch from one part of our personality to another. So you can be thinking from a part, and there's a certain quality of thinking arising from that. You can be identified with that thinking and not really noticing that you're thinking from a part. And then you have a kind of another concept, another idea, another emotion, and then another part can switch in, and then you're thinking from a different place in yourself. And that would be totally normal. Okay. But the thing I want you to start to get here, and this is so useful, again, for healing, for your therapy journey, for your medicine work journey, is to start to notice the part, to notice the lens that you are thinking from as a lens. I hope this makes sense. I know this can sound really esoteric. It's actually very, very practical. As we start to notice the lens that we are thinking through, then we can start to account for whatever wounds or fears or insecurities or imbalances or misunderstandings might be built into that lens. If we are not accounting for that, we can end up thinking from these parts of ourselves that are organized. So different parts are often, not always, but often organized around wounds, around needs to adapt to different moments in life or different situations we were in or environments we were in. So we can kind of be thinking from these parts of ourselves that are maybe outdated or inappropriate for the current moment in our life, or generally just carry a sense of wounding that distorts the thinking and the logic and the feeling and the perception and the understanding that we're using, right? Again, I hope this makes sense. This sounds esoteric, but if you can see the lens you're thinking through as a lens, then you can also start to A, heal that lens, B, consider what other lenses might be useful that you're not thinking through in that moment, or C, move into that more essential core self, which is this wide open, spacious mind, which is, let's say, has no lens or has less of a lens, debatable, but is less filtered, is more just present, right? Now, when you are doing medicine work with yourself, if you're sitting and meditating with medicine and you're using any of these substances to heal, this becomes essential because the medicine will, of course, amplify whatever thoughts and feelings we're having. And we don't necessarily track that we are coming from different parts of our personality unless they're maybe exaggerated, right? If you're feeling incredibly vulnerable or incredibly young and childish or incredibly judgmental and rigid or incredibly silly and playful, you might catch that there's a part that's booted up that you're operating through. But a lot of times we don't. And this can get us in real trouble in terms of meaning making or understanding what's happening or working with ourselves clearly when we're on the medicine. Again, this also is a massive, massive key when it comes to healing yourself off of the medicine in your therapeutic journey. If you're doing trauma work on yourself and you need to make sure that you're, understanding the situation and processing it cleanly and clearly. One of the major mistakes I see over and over is people thinking from a part, but not recognizing they're thinking from a part. And then the kind of reactionary logic that comes out of that part doesn't serve moving towards healing. Let's put it that way. So that's my message to you. It's actually very simple. This is, again, at the core, this is one of the fundamental things. This is one of the first things that empowers the ability to heal. If you cannot catch the lens you're thinking through, you're going to keep kind of delaying your progress, for lack of a better phrase here, because you're going to be coming up with insights or interpretations or responses to whatever's happening from a more filtered, colored, distorted, and biased place in yourself. So we'll talk more about mindfulness. It's a key part of healing. So we'll be talking about it more. But just so you know, the way I think that there are kind of certain gates into this path of healing and successfully healing. And I think mindful avoidance is probably the first gate to move through, choosing not to avoid. And this is probably the second gate here, which is using mindfulness. Okay. I want to remind you again, if mindfulness is kind of a dirty word to you, you don't like it, you have an aversion to it, it's a turnoff because all these, therapists and experts are always talking about mindfulness, that it's simply the act of noticing, of bringing your attention inward and paying closer attention. Okay. So you can't really do any useful therapeutic work on yourself if you're not noticing the data and the information that's here in yourself. So this is why I think everyone should be working at and practicing and refining their capability when it comes to mindfulness, because we need to be catching the data that's here so that we can do the healing work in the places where the healing needs to happen. I mean, that just makes good sense, right? But also, in order to be able to do that, we need to start to catch when we're thinking through a particular lens that might be a bit distorted or biased in a certain direction, and notice it as a lens and account for that. And as we start to notice that, we can get outside of that lens. But if you don't know you're thinking through a lens, then you don't really know to get outside of it. So that's my message to you today. I hope this is useful. Let me know down below. Again, I'm trying to build connection with you here on YouTube, make impact, help you with your progress, whether we're talking psychedelic therapy and medicine work or healing or personal development or trauma recovery or whatever it is that you're following the channel for. So let me know, does this resonate for you? I'm going to be focusing more and more here on the channel on really relevant content and connecting the dots for you and helping you understand why all the stuff I talk about is even relevant in the first place. So this is at the core of the work from my point of view. This is one of the most practical things I can give you. So if this hits home for you, do me a favor, leave a thumbs up, leave a comment. Let me know if you'd ever considered this, if this is something you're already doing. and or if this was useful. Okay, much love. I'll see you guys very soon. Take care.